When in 2012, Xi Jinping introduced himself to the international media in the Great Hall of the People, international watchers were wondering if Xi Jinping would follow in the footsteps of his predecessors, Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, and keep the opening and reforming of the political system. You see, China's leaders Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao were being sneaky snakes from 1992 to 2012. They experimented with loosening political controls by recruiting more smarty-pants and business people into the party, enforcing retirement and term limits, rotating officials like a game of political hot potato, and loosening media controls just enough to keep people from freaking out. Through these reforms, they were trying to strengthen the party by liberalizing and loosening the political system, but without losing control of the process. In just a single generation, the party elite has been transformed from a mirthless band of Mao-suited ideological thugs to a wealthy, besuited, and business-friendly ruling class. But Xi had other plans. Xi came to the conclusion that if he kept up the whole opening up thing, he'd end up becoming China's version of Mikhail Gorbachev. And we all know how that turned out for the Soviet Union. So, like any good leader, Xi decided to do the exact opposite. In his initial appearance as China's new leader, Xi staked out 3 prominent themes that would characterize his leadership: China as a world power, combating corruption, and the Chinese Communist Party (CCP) as national savior. Shortly thereafter, Xi took his team to the National Museum to see an exhibition on China's road to rejuvenation. They focused on the pre-1949 era, where China was chopped up, stripped, and bullied by Westerners and Japan. You know what Napoleon said about China? Let her sleep, for when she wakes, she will shake the world. Comrade Xi, Napoleon died over 100 years ago. I'm not sure his opinion on China still matters. Of course it matters. He was right. China was asleep for too long, and then the Westerners came and humiliated us. But now we're waking up, and we'll show them who's boss. That's the Chinese way. I'm pretty sure that's not the Chinese way. Well, it is now, and you know what? I bet Napoleon would have agreed with me. Xi wants to move China forward as a major power in the 21st century. But like every respectable nationalist/populist autocrat, his means of fulfilling this goal are deeply illiberal. For the past 4 decades, there was practically no personality cult around the leader, but Xi changed it all. Television programs began to celebrate his wise leadership. Xi Kitsch can be found in shops across the country, and multimedia follow his every activity. There's even a Xi Jinping app. It is required viewing for all party members, but everyone in society can benefit. 1 point for every Xi essay read, 1 point for every Xi speech watched, 50 points if you did this during non-working hours. But more on that later. Back in 1995, China opened its internet service to the general public, which it celebrated with great enthusiasm. Internet clubs and cafes sprouted everywhere in China's largest cities. Despite having restrictions over certain types of political content, the web had evolved into a virtual space by the late 2000s, offering greater transparency and rule of law than the country's actual political system. There were even Chinese citizens who used the internet to help victims and overturn harmful decisions. In the late 2000s, severe floods struck towns near Beijing, forcing over 65,000 people to flee their homes. But instead of helpful officials, stranded citizens found themselves facing ticket-wielding cops and a busted warning system. Luckily, Beijing residents stepped up, flooding social media Weibo with 8.8 million messages and offering 520,000 homes and meals to those in need. Another example is when, in early 2012, folks in Xifang had a bone to pick with a proposed copper alloy refinery that would have messed up the environment and their health. Thousands of people protested and Weibo went wild. With 5.25 million posts and 400,000 pics, the protest still won. The factory plants were scrapped. Xi Jinping initially embraced social media, even using banned platforms like Facebook to promote his international profile. However, in early 2016, after visiting a number of Chinese news outlets and telling staff that the Chinese media must love the party, protect the party, Xi went so far as to claim that the media must be surnamed party. He went from liking social media to wanting to be the only media really fast. Xi's drive to control the information Chinese people can access is not a new one. Chinese leaders throughout history have always tried to control what information the people have access to. For instance, First Emperor of United China, Qin Shi Huang, ordered the banning and burning of all Confucian texts out of fear that scholars would use history to compare his reign with that of past rulers. Mao Zedong kept foreign literature and media under lock and key and only let the party elite have a peek. Academic journals were as extinct as dinosaurs, and publishing houses closed down faster than a pop-up lemonade stand in winter. Unlike previous times, Technological advancements during Xi Jinping's ascent to power allowed the Chinese government to exercise more significant authority over the internet by using the Great Firewall of China, aka the ultimate buzzkill for internet freedom. This bad boy was first erected in 1998 and can block foreign websites and monitor the flow of information within China like a digital bouncer. In April 2015, it launched the Great Cannon. The Great Cannon is different from the Great Firewall, as it can manipulate and replace content in real time instead of just blocking it at the borders. China ushered in a new era of censorship. China's focus on internet governance has been primarily on controlling content and access. However, they are also utilizing the power of the internet for a social experiment called the social credit system. This system collects data on individuals via the internet and develops a rating system that will provide benefits for good behavior and penalize bad behavior. It then assigns users a score based on personal information, credit history, and behavior. Breaking traffic laws or not cleaning up after your dog can make you lose social credit points. People labeled as trust breakers may be punished by not getting job promotions or not being allowed to own a house. Honey, it's time. Let's buy a house. I can't, babe. I didn't pick up our dog's turd last week. You traitor! Those Chinese with high credit scores, however, may be rewarded with benefits. Young Chinese in particular appear using it as a screening mechanism for dates, helping hopeless losers to finally find a girlfriend. My place, right now. But she wasn't done just yet. Across the country, the security services have erected a modern surveillance state of unprecedented scale. The country has more cameras per person than any other country, with 8 Chinese cities in the top 10. There are 22 million cameras in total across the country. Every face in Chinese cities is photographed, recorded, and kept in a national police database. Soon, secondary schools in China will install classroom cameras that will watch both students' behavior and teachers' teaching. Hello, class. It's good to see you. Teacher, can I ask you a question about the social credit system? Of course. What would you like to know? Well, I read that in some parts of the world, companies monitor people's online activity to make money. But in China, the government is monitoring people for national security. Why is that? That's a good question. In China, we believe that monitoring people's behavior is important for maintaining social order and stability. Yes, but why all these cameras? Are people really that dangerous? By monitoring people's behavior, we can identify potential threats and take action to prevent them from causing harm. I don't know. Monitoring everyone just to keep them in line? It seems wrong to me. No sector of society has escaped the reach of the Xi regime, including the party. He believes in the absolute power of the Communist Party, spearheaded by a supreme leader. In his speech to the 19th Party Congress in 2017, Xi boldly proclaimed, "The party exercises overall leadership over all areas of endeavor in every part of the country. It doesn't matter whether it is the government, the military, the people, or the schools. East, west, north, south, or the center, the party rules everything." In the 2000s, the Communist Party had lost its ideological rationale, and for many of its more than 80 million members, the party served as little more than a stepping stone for personal political and economic advancement. Corruption was endemic throughout the party and the economy. But it's been a problem in China for a long time. Even emperors tried to tackle it with mixed success. During Qing Dynasty, emperor introduced laws and exams to select honest officials, but some of those who were supposed to enforce the laws ended up being corrupt themselves. Communist rule in 1949 did not bring about significant changes. Mao launched several unpredictable anti-corruption campaigns in search of tigers, those who were engaged in highly lucrative corruption, as well as fleas, lower-level corrupt officials. The more graft cases that are exposed, the happier I am. Have you ever caught fleas on your body? The more you catch, the more pleased you are. Xi liked this quote, and soon he unleashed the most harsh crackdown on corruption in the party's history. Officials are now restricted in how many cars they can own, the size of their homes, number of days they can travel, and whether they can have secretaries. To top it off, they can't even join a golf club. Hey fellas, want to go play golf? I mean mini-golf. I meant mini-golf. Mini-golf. By 2018, Chinese officials looked into 2.7 million officials and penalized 1.5 million. Xi even locked up some big shots, including 42 members of the Central Committee and 71 generals. Wow, Xi, you've taken down so many corrupt officials. Yes, and it's been quite effective, and to be honest, there's another reason I launched it. What's that? I needed to get rid of some political opponents, and what better way to do it than accuse them of corruption? It's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That's some dark joke, comrade, but a good one. Of course it's a joke. Mostly. The anti-corruption campaign has scared bureaucrats so much that they're now stuck in a state of frozen panic, too afraid to do anything that might get them accused of corruption or not supporting Xi enough. Xi has taken the Communist Party of China back to the good old days of the 1950s, a time when his dad was part of the leadership. To achieve this nostalgic dream, he removed term limits on the presidency in 2018 and made himself a leader for life. China's assertiveness in international affairs has been causing some concern among its neighbors, especially in the South China Sea. The 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea sets the standard for maritime boundaries. It dictates a 12-mile territorial water limit and a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, which any navy can sail any permission at any time. This applies to the South China Sea and is widely accepted by most countries. But in the 2000s, Chinese bigwigs were getting pretty stressed about their oil supply. I mean, it's like their lifeblood for the economy, and 80% of it comes from the Middle East, all the way across the Indian Ocean and through the Strait of Malacca. The fear was that the US might block it if China gets rowdy. Listen, Barry, I promise you that we won't be building any military islands in the South China Sea. Really? That's great to hear. I was getting a little worried about all the activity out there. No, I promise. It's just a little gardening. We're putting in some nice flowers and shrubs, maybe even a little fountain. Well, as long as it's just gardening, I suppose that's okay. Back it up, boys. Back it up slow. Back it up. Xi, what's going on in the South China Sea? I thought you promised me there wouldn't be any military islands. Oh, that? Yeah, sorry about that. We just got a little carried away with the landscaping. Before we knew it, we had a full-fledged military base on our hands. But you promised me. I know, but hey, at least the flowers are still looking great. These actions deteriorated China's global image, but things didn't end there. The party's actions, including the imprisonment and indoctrination of Uyghurs in Xinjiang, the ongoing attacks on Tibetan culture and religion, and the implementation of the strict national security law in Hong Kong have caused global shock and have played a significant role in the declining respect for China. Xi himself doesn't care about international criticism, as he tersely told his counterparts at the 2020 EU-China summit. We don't accept any lectures, which basically means you guys need China and you know it, so you can just go back to crying about plastic straws or something. Thanks to globalization, China's economy was now closely tied with many Western countries. Apple needs China to make iPhones, NBA needs China to expand its viewership, and producers of Transformers need China to generate a whole lot of cash. China's got some mad skills when it comes to attracting foreign investments. It knows how to work the game. They lure in foreign investors with the promise of sweet cash. Before the whole COVID-19 mess hit the fan, their economy was chugging along at an impressive 7% growth rate from 2012 through 2019. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic, China's involvement in it, as well as Xi's relationships with the US and Russia, are an extremely intricate subject and would really need its own video. But for now, let's think about what we've learned about Xi. Xi Jinping had a very tumultuous upbringing. As the late senior Singaporean statesman Lee Kuan Yew observed, he has iron in his soul. His trials and tribulations made his leadership style strong as he rose through the ranks with determination. Ahead of his ascension, politicians and analysts believed he would usher in a new, more democratic China. Instead, Xi quickly consolidated power like few leaders before him, so much so that he is now considered the most authoritarian ruler in China since Mao. Xi repressed non-Chinese minorities, created a mass surveillance state with a total control of information and media, and eliminated term limits, effectively allowing himself to serve as leader of China for life.